Hello, darlings. Welcome to tonight's episode of Here Comes the News. I'm your host, Mika. Stevie, unfortunately, could not be with us tonight, but he did send me a very interesting text message earlier. Apparently, he was chatting with our mother, and our mother, who has been a lifelong ultra-conservative Southern church lady, has progressed far enough along in her political journey that she laughed at a Charlie Kirk joke today. So, yeah. I'm not one to count all of my chicks before they hatch, but I do see it as a promising sign that America may be healing. Now, to completely contradict my opener, let's go to the first headline. This is coming from NBCnews.com. Man shot in incident involving Border Patrol in Arizona is charged with assault. The FBI said the 34-year-old Arizona man was fleeing during a human smuggling investigation and fired at a CBP helicopter. A man who the FBI said has a criminal history of human smuggling was charged with counts including assault Wednesday, a day after he was shot and wounded by a Border Patrol agent in Arizona after allegedly firing at a helicopter. As with all things that the federal government law enforcement says happened, I take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, Patrick Gary Schlegel, a 34-year-old Arizona resident, was shot around 7:30 a.m. in Aravaca, about 10 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border, said Heath Janke, special agent in charge of the FBI's Phoenix Field Division. Schlegel was shot after a foot chase following a traffic stop related to an, this is in quotes, active alien smuggling matter, Janke said during a news conference Tuesday. Before 7 a.m. Tuesday, Border Patrol agents had spotted a vehicle with multiple people inside, and when agents tried to make a stop, everyone fled, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos said. Later, the Border Patrol recognized what he believed to be that vehicle and conducted a traffic stop. The driver, who was now the only person inside, got out and ran away. The agent gave chase on foot, the sheriff said. Shots were fired from the suspect, and the agent returned fire. The suspect was hit, Nanos said. Schlegel was running and being chased on foot when he fired a handgun towards a helicopter piloted by a Customs Border Protection agent, according to the criminal complaint filed in the case. A Border Patrol agent who was chasing Schlegel then shot him. Schlegel was injured in the leg and head, the complaint said. No law enforcement officers were injured, officials say. So, yeah, law enforcement such as Border Patrol and ICE are still going around shooting people. Willy-nilly, it seems. So, I guess it begs the question, is the federal government actually investigating these agent-involved shootings? You see, I not only look like a bride of Dracula, but I can use the passive voice as well. Another headline from NBCnews.com. Questions swirl around federal government's plan to investigate DHS shootings. DHS is leading the investigations, not the FBI, which has raised questions about independence, and local officials have been cut out where there is usually cooperation, experts say. Top officials in the Trump administration have been quick to say, in the aftermath of the fatal shootings in Minneapolis of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, that the shootings were justified, and said that a deeper federal criminal civil rights probe wasn't warranted at this time. Need I remind you that in the case of Renee Good, the officer that shot her, Jonathan Ross, called her a fucking bitch after shooting her. And in the case of Alex Preddy, we have video footage from multiple angles showing him being beaten by 7 or 8 ICE officers, pistol whipped with his own gun that he had a concealed carry permit for, and shot in the back by ICE officers while lying face down on the ground. So, with just a cursory glance, one might expect that there should be some kind of investigation to make sure that everything has been, shall we say, above board. However, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said that Renee Good had been conducting domestic terrorism, and according to Stephen Miller, that Nosferatu, who is Trump's aide, Preddy was a would-be assassin, although in both cases, eyewitness videos contradict those narratives. Nothing about what is going on here is normal, said Claire Deagle, an attorney with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. She said during a federal court hearing on Monday, after the county asked a judge to extend an order forcing Homeland Security officials to preserve evidence in the shooting of Preddy. From a law enforcement perspective, this is astonishing, Minnesota officials said in their court filing over evidence preservation. The federal government's actions are a sharp departure from normal best practices and procedures, in which every effort is taken to preserve the scene and the evidence it contains. I was trying my best to make sure that all of our headlines tonight wouldn't just be about ICE and what ICE is doing. But unfortunately, they're still doing so much. So in the interest of limiting how much I talk about them, because I do feel that I'm not really saying anything new at this point, we know that ICE is a giant roving gang of violent fascists who are attacking everyone willy-nilly, and the federal government is totally cool with this and will say anything to try to justify the violence that they do. So, in order to best sum up what ICE is doing, here's a video of ICE deploying tear gas outside of a Minneapolis preschool as parents shout, "This is a preschool, kids are here."
This is a preschool, you stupid motherfuckers! There's kids there, you fucking idiots! Answer for your God when you leave this planet!
This video in question was filmed yesterday. So despite the fact that the federal government has announced that Greg Bavino, the previous guy in charge of ICE operations on the ground, is being demoted and transferred back to California, ICE is still operating as they have been operating. The administration has said that they're going to bring back Thomas Homan, who, if you remember, when discussing ICE operations in Chicago, complained that Chicago residents knew too much about their rights and were resisting ICE law enforcement action. So, I don't really expect things on the ground to change all that much. Moving on to our next headline. You may wonder why the government seems to be going after normal people and insisting that anyone who is leftist, people who do mutual aid, people who protest the government's actions, anyone who says that trans rights or human rights are all terrorists. You may wonder, what are they doing about right-wing violence? Well, to answer that, not much. Despite the fact that right-wing violence is continuing as much as ever here in the US. This is from leftcoastrightswatch.org. Portland neo-Nazi arrested. Suspect in wounding 2 officers in a shooting. Around 8:20 p.m. on Monday, January 19th, Portland Police Bureau officers responded to a call about a man threatening people with a knife near the Lloyd Center in northeast Portland. Officers engaged the man on Northeast Clackamas Street between 16th and 17th. During a brief conversation, the man pulled out a handgun and shot both officers. PPB's public information manager, Mike Benner, told a press conference on Monday afternoon. The 2 officers were taken to a nearby hospital and were released by the time of the press conference on Monday. Immediately after the shooting, around 90 PPB units closed off a wide area between Multnomah and Broadway and 15th and 21st Avenues for a manhunt. To no avail. A week later, on January 26, after an all-hands-on-deck investigation that included the U.S. Marshals, ATF, and FBI, as well as over 230 tips from the community, they announced that a suspect was in custody. Eric Floyd Oaklers, a neo-Nazi with ties to Portland area far-right protest outfits like Cops Northwest and that old chestnut, Patriot Prayer. U.S. Marshals arrested Oaklers at about 7 a.m. in a tactical operation in the 6400 block of Northeast 82nd Avenue. They also seized the firearm they believed was used in the shooting, which was not on his person at the time of arrest. Binner said specific tips from the community made Oakler's arrest a possible. PPB Chief Bob Day claimed they were able to take Oaklers in without force, which is interesting because law enforcement has a tendency to fill any leftist they see full of bullet holes. Yet they took a guy who shot two of their own without force. Oaklers currently faces 2 counts of attempted murder, first degree, 2 counts of assault, first degree, and 2 counts of unlawful use of a weapon. He had outstanding warrants for robbery, second degree, and theft, first degree, according to booking records at Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. So, you might be wondering if there is any statements about his motivation from Oaklers himself. And, well, apparently, Oaklers idolized a far-right terrorist after participating in an attack on Portland May Day celebration in 2019. Oaklers called Eric Rudolph, the white supremacist who bombed the 1996 Olympics, as well as other homophobic and anti-abortion terror attacks, my hero. I think he should be the new Pinochet. You know, the saying Pinochet did nothing wrong. I say Eric Rudolph did nothing wrong, and unlike Pinochet, he's really the modern left's worst nightmare, Oaklers wrote on Facebook. His ex, Katie Weisberg, who is another associate in the Pacific Northwest far-right scene, claimed that Oaklers has neo-Nazi tattoos and abused her mixed-race child. He literally has swastika tattoos and 1488 white power and lightning bolts and all kinds of Nazi tats, she wrote on Facebook. So, yeah, he sounds like a real winner. And to put a pin in all the things that he said and to finish painting this portrait, at Oakler's arraignment on Tuesday, January 27th, he spouted a bizarre mixture of conspiracy theories. He claimed the court was unconstitutional, that the state of Oregon and radical leftists, this is in quotes, were conspiring to use, again in quotes, illegal neurotransmitters against, again in quotes, white Christians, and that Trump was bringing the military to vanquish them. Oaklers isn't the only person on the right that has been getting up to some shenanigans when it comes to attacks on people in public. Since Sunday, 2 prominent Democrat elected officials have been attacked. On Sunday, Florida Representative Maxwell Frost was assaulted while attending the Sundance Film Festival event. And just last night, a man lunged at Ilhan Omar during a town hall and tried to spray her with an unknown substance. In her case, she was not injured and continued speaking after the incident. Police had arrested the man and charged him with third-degree assault. If you get the chance to watch footage of her town hall, you will also see her pull her fist back like she's gonna punch him good. So, yeah. Kind of want to bring back the 2016 meme that made the rounds. Give Ilhan Omar a Gundam. Because if anyone can be trusted with a Gundam, I think it's probably her. Moving on to other news. In labor news, this is from GameDeveloper.com. The headline, "We are shutting it down. Ubisoft unions call for an international strike." 5 unions in France have proposed a mass walkout in February in response to widespread cost-cutting and a return-to-office mandate. A cohort of unionized Ubisoft employees in France have called on all workers to join in a massive international strike in protest against a 5-day return-to-office mandate and widespread cost-cutting at the company. Ubisoft unions STJV, Solidaires Informatiques, CGT, CFE, and CGC, and Printemps Ecologique are encouraging employees to down tools for 3 days from February 10th to February 12th. The strike has been called in response to the colossal reorganization announcement by Ubisoft last week, which will see the company restructure its studio system around 5 creative houses. This decision has already resulted in project cancellations and studio closures, and more downsizing and upheaval will follow, with Ubisoft planning a €200 million cost-cutting initiative and a return-to-office mandate. It's interesting that whenever companies like Ubisoft and other tech companies talk about cost-cutting measures, they never seem to cut back on the bonuses that the C-suite always gets. Funny, that. Speaking of technology news, this is from Wired.com. Palantir defends work with ICE. 2 staff following killing of Alex Preddy. I can't believe I'm about to read this next quote. I strongly suggest to any of our listeners, whether you are watching this stream or just listening to the audio, please sit down and brace yourself for some information that you may find a bit damaging. Are you ready? Are you good? Okay. In my opinion, ICE are the bad guys. I'm not proud that the company I enjoy so much working for is part of this, one worker wrote on Slack. This is like one of the Urukai orcs hopping on LinkedIn to say something to the effect of, I think our mission here with Saruman is great and very important, but I can't say I'm a fan of the fact that we have allied ourselves with the greater forces of Sauron in their quest to subjugate and conquer Middle-earth. Anyway, moving on in the article. After federal agents shot and killed Minneapolis nurse Alex Preddy on Saturday, Palantir workers pressed for answers from leadership on the company's work with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. I need to pause. It's worth noting that there have been about a dozen shootings by ICE in the last 12 months. And most of those, the Palantir employees were apparently fine with. Completely cool. Nary a peep. But when ICE kills a couple of white people, all of a sudden there's a problem. Internal Slack messages reviewed by Wired reveal growing frustration within Palantir over its relationship with the Department of Homeland Security, and in particular, ICE's enforcement and investigation teams. In response, Palantir's privacy and civil liberties teams published an update to the company's internal wiki detailing its work on federal immigration enforcement, arguing that this is a winning statement. Technology is making a difference in mitigating risks while enabling targeted outcomes. If you're curious as to what that means, when I run that through the Corpo translator, when they say mitigating risks, they mean preventing white people from getting shot by ICE, making it where not as many white people get shot, beaten, and brutalized by immigration's customs enforcement agents. And when we say enabling targeted outcomes, we mean making sure that ICE has lists of every immigrant in the U.S., whether or not they have the required legal documentation. In a Saturday thread on Slack discussing Preddy's killing, Palantir workers questioned both the ethics and the business logic of continuing the company's work with ICE. Our involvement with ICE has been internally swept under the rug under Trump too much. We need an understanding of our involvement here. One person wrote, who is currently employed with a massive surveillance company that is putting everyone under the microscope and giving all of their information to the fascist federal government. Can Palantir put any pressure on ICE at all? Wrote another. Why, I've read stories of folks rounded up who were seeking asylum with no order to leave the country, no criminal record, and consistently check in with authorities. Literally, no reason to be rounded up. Surely, we aren't helping with that, said an employee whose express job duties were helping the fascist government do exactly that. The discussion was held in a company-wide Slack channel dedicated to a general world news coverage. The messages viewed by Wired received dozens of +1 emoji responses from other workers seemingly backing requests for more information about Palantir's relationship with ICE. Palantir, the company named after the all-seeing orbs that were used by Sauron, the villain of Lord of the Rings and creator of the One Ring, to spy on everyone across Middle-earth, that being who they're named for, and is also helping a violent fascist government in the process of beating and brutalizing everyone regardless of immigration status, citizenship status, or, seemingly political belief. Just about anyone's a target if an ICE agent can reach ya. Palantir, who is helping the fascists do that, did not respond to requests for comment from Wired. And I must say that I, for one, am shocked they didn't feel like saying anything. Speaking of technology that is running amok and fucking up people's lives, this is from 404 Media. Again, another headline I never thought I would read. An app for quitting porn leaked users' masturbation habits. I'd like everybody to kind of sit and marinate in that for a bit. There's an app that people use because they are worried about an addiction to porn and that it may be affecting their lives. And that app basically told the world how often they like jorking it. In the chat, Ripley the Vampire, yeah, I agree. It looks like they did release the Jerkstein files. Some of the data exposed includes the user's age, how often they masturbate, and how viewing pornography makes them feel. According to the data, many of them are minors. An example of the personal data, one user said they were 14, that their frequency of porn consumption was several times a week, with a maximum of 3 times per day, and that their triggers were boredom and sexual urges. This user was given a dependence score, which is apparently something this app does. It grades you on how hopelessly horny you are. And listed their symptoms as feeling unmotivated, lack of ambition to pursue goals, difficulty concentrating, poor memory, or brain fog. Which I'm not one to armchair diagnose anyone. I'm certainly not a doctor. But that just sounds like ADHD. Or puberty, to be honest. Take your pick, one or the other. We're not naming the app because the developer has not fixed the issue, which was discovered by an independent security researcher who asked to remain anonymous. The researcher first flagged the issue to the creator of the app in September, which, nice to know that technology companies are continuing the long-running tradition of being told about a problem and ignoring it. The creator of the app said, "Yeah, I'll fix it," and then never did. The issue is a misconfiguration in the app's usage of the mobile app development platform Google Firebase, which by default makes it easy for anyone to make themselves an authenticated user who can access the app's back-end storage, where many instances of user data is apparently stored unhashed. Overall, the researcher said he could access the information of more than 600,000 users of the porn quitting app, 100,000 of which identified as minors. The app, which is sounding worse and worse the more I read about this, invites users to write confessions about their habits. One of those read, "I just can't do this, man. I honestly don't know what to do. I'm such a loser. I need serious help. And that to me is a genuinely sad sentiment to read. I don't know if I can say that this is an opinion of the Gender Swap podcast as a whole. I don't know where Stevie falls on this. But I can say definitively that the Here Comes the News mini podcast stance is that the current moral panic about pornography that blames pornography for the destructive behavior and mistreatment of women by men on pornography is ignoring the patriarchal rape culture that just about everyone, at least in the Western world, is raised in. And the people who push the narrative that porn is to blame are people who have a vested interest in continuing the violence of the current patriarchal system and ensuring that anyone who isn't a cis man doesn't get bodily autonomy. And this app is using that moral panic to get people who I do truly believe are suffering, but they're not suffering because of pornography, or rather, I don't think that pornography causes their suffering. I think they're suffering because of the guilt and shame they feel about having natural human urges to get the poison out, flick the bean, flog the log, shake hands with the bishop. When reached for comment by phone, the creator of the app told me he had talked to the researcher, but that the app never exposed user data because of a misconfigured Google Firebase, and that the researcher probably faked the data that 404 Media reviewed. I'm going to, this is a direct quote, so I'm going to do my best to read it with the tone and gravitas that the response from the creator of the anti-porn Don't Jerk It app deserves. Okay, testing. Okay, here we go.
There is no sensitive information exposed. That's just not true,
the founder told 404 Media.
Those users are not in my database, so, I just don't give this guy attention. I just think it's a bit of a joke.
When 404 Media asked the founder of the Jerk It Not Porn Begone app, why he previously thanked the researcher for responsibly disclosing the misconfiguration and asked why the founder had said he would rush to fix it. The founder of the Shame app wished 404 Media a good day and hung up. So, I feel like that kind of, that's about that. That's as good a stopping place as any. So, before I wish everyone listening and watching the stream, before I wish you a good night and then hang up, I just want to let you know that if you haven't already, you can hop on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/genderswappodcast, and follow us if you want to get notifications of when we're going to be streaming the main podcast episodes, which, by the way, happens every Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whenever we're going to stream Here Comes the News, which happens weekly Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are interested in hearing more of the Gender Swap podcast, we have a Patreon where you can sign up for $3 a month or $10 a month if you're feeling particularly generous. And if you sign up for $10 a month, we'll read your name at the end of every Gender Swap episode. Trying to think what else. Oh, we have a YouTube channel. Just do a quick YouTube search for the Gender Swap podcast. We will come right up. I double checked to make sure we are showing up in the search results now. Follow us there if you would like to see archived videos of the stream, since Twitch only holds the archived videos for about a week. As always, the information that I have presented to you can be independently verified from multiple sources on the internet. And as always, any information I've given you, do with that information what you will. Bye.